Hi guys, Andrea Mills here. Today I want to talk to you guys about the tea that I use when I am in labor that helps to reduce hemorrhaging and helps your labor to progress better. So I am going to tell a lot of stories about it first, and then I'll show you how to make the tea. But if you're just interested in skipping all that and just going right to the directions for how to make the tea, I'm going to put right down here the time in the video you should jump forward to so you can skip all my talking, because sometimes I get a little chatty. So if you're not interested in that, you can just skip forward. So I had 3 babies, and during my 4th pregnancy I was at the library and I saw this book, Rodale's Encyclopedia of Natural Home Remedies, and it was on the $1 book sale table. So I took it home and I was reading it, all sorts of things. It was just kind of people's personal stories of things that they had tried for all sorts of different ailments and problems and what had worked for them. It kind of reminds me of the website earthclinic.com, which is one of my favorites, where you can just like look up any problem and people have just talked about what they did and what worked for them. And I am always very much more interested in actually hearing what has worked for somebody than what is supposed to work. So I really like this sort of thing. So here in the pregnancy section, they had the raspberry leaf tea story. And I had heard about using raspberry leaf tea during pregnancy to tone your uterus and things. But this book told about this woman's experience when she had learned from her mother about someone who had written about using this sort of tea during labor, and how it was made much stronger than what you would actually use and normally. So she says she tried the tea and how her labor went super fast and was very much less painful than her first labor had been. And then her daughter, eventually she got her daughter to try it when she grew up and became a mother, and she had the same experience of having a very short labor and feeling really good after the birth. And I think there might have been someone else in the book that tried it. So this was my 4th pregnancy when I read about this, and I thought I definitely would like to try that. So our 4th baby was born in the hospital, and so the day that I went into labor, I made the tea according to the directions in the book here, and I wasn't sure what would happen, and our hospital is 100 miles away. So I waited until let's see, we were about 30 minutes from the hospital before I started drinking it. And at that point I was having contractions, but it was not that big of a deal. I was obviously definitely in labor, but I was not having any trouble or anything like that. We were visiting and talking and everything was fine. So my mom was with me and my husband, Tom. So anyways, so about 30 minutes from the hospital, I started drinking the tea, and it's so strong and bitter and disgusting tasting that Tom was teasing me that my face looked way worse when I would take a drink of the tea than it did when I was having a contraction. So that gives you an idea of how not quickly, or how not far along I was in my labor, that it was not that big of a deal and the tea was awful. But I kept drinking it, and because you're supposed to drink the whole amount, it's supposed to be as hot as possible and the whole amount. So I kept drinking it, and I think it took me about 15 minutes to get the whole thing down. And at that point my labor definitely took a different turn, like it got serious then. And so we got to the hospital, and I walked in and they met us partway with a wheelchair. So I got in, they took me right into the room where I would have the baby, and as soon as they checked me they said it was already time. So of course that caused lots of flustered people running around and craziness. And so he was born, I don't know how long I pushed it, it was very brief pushing, and it was all over already. And he was, at that point, he was my biggest baby, so he was 9 pounds 4 ounces and was born very, very fast. So then the next morning, because part of the whole point of this tea was not just to strengthen your contractions, but it was supposed to help keep you from hemorrhaging. And so the next morning they came and drew my blood like they always do, and do the blood work and see how you're doing and all that. And later my doctor came in, and he had this look on his face like he wasn't sure what to think, and he said something to the effect of, you know, this is really weird. Your blood is so good that, he says, you just seem like some normal healthy person that came in off the street, that there was no evidence that I had delivered a baby, because I lost so little blood that based on all my blood counts you would think nothing had ever happened. So I didn't tell him that I had tried the tea, but it confirmed to me that it had done its job, because I had very little blood loss after after Justice was born. So I think, let's see, Justice, and then, yeah, so the next time I tried it was our first home birth, and my midwife wanted to induce my labor because she was going to be leaving, and so she had me drink my tea before I was ever in labor, and then she had me use a breast pump for like 2 hours to try to stimulate my labor, and then she came and she broke my water, which I wouldn't want to do these things now. I've learned more things, but at the time I was fine with it. So my labor got going, and within 2 hours of my labor actually starting, Eden was born. And so again, it went very quickly, and I hardly lost any blood again that time. And then the next person who tried it was my sister, which she delivered her baby in the same hospital that I had my fourth baby. And I was going to be going with them, but I didn't know exactly when she was going to be going into labor, and she went up to the hospital kind of early, and I was going to be coming up, you know, later. So what I ended up doing with that one was I made the tea, and then I put it on the stove and I simmered it down, like without any bubbles. I just had it on a very, very low heat so the water would evaporate. And I condensed it down to a 1 ounce vial. It was like a super tiny amount, like a shot basically. And then I took that with me to the hospital, and she just took the shot of it when I got there. And the same thing the next day, the doctor, it was the same doctor, he's like, wow, you lost a little blood, it's like you didn't even have a baby, kind of a thing. And again, we didn't mention what we'd been doing, but another confirmation with blood work that it actually really did reduce bleeding. Then the next time I tried it was with my sixth baby, yeah. And nothing eventful. That was another home birth, and you know, everything the same, just not much blood loss. And then we tried it with our seventh baby. That was our first unassisted birth, and with that one, my labor ended up going so fast that I actually didn't get to drink the tea before she was born, because it was still too hot. My whole labor was 1 hour and 20 minutes, and so I had made it, and it was sitting there, but it was too hot to drink. So after she came out, then all the kids had gathered around and were all excited, and I had one of them hand me the glass, and I chugged it down after she was born, and I felt like that still had a positive effect on stopping any bleeding that was happening. And then I didn't get to use it with my last birth, with number 8, because, well, if you watch my videos, you'll find out the whole story about her birth and why I didn't get to use my tea. So here we are. This is the jar I had actually prepared to use for Claudia's birth, and then I didn't get to use it. So I'm going to make it today and show you guys how to do it, so that you can try it maybe the next time you are going to have a baby. So the recipe calls for a whole ounce of raspberry leaves, so that's what's in this jar. You can see that's a lot of leaves. It's almost filling this, you know, halfway full on this quart-sized jar. So if this was a pint, it would be filling the whole pint jar with raspberry leaves. And these are the loose, I bought them in bulk, loose leaves. With the first time I did this, I had tea bags, and when I weighed them out, it was like 12 tea bags worth. If you were going to use fresh raspberry leaves, if you just have some raspberry plants, then you would need triple the amount. So you would be doing 3 ounces by weight of raspberry leaves, or you could pick them and dry them, and then you would be back to the 1 ounce amount. I also went ahead and put sugar in here just to try to sweeten it up. It doesn't help much, and I used honey too before, but it is so bitter that I don't know, I guess it just in my mind makes me feel better, but it really doesn't taste good at all, whether it's sweetened or not sweetened. So we're gonna go and I will show you how to mix this up. So there you go. If you are interested in continuing talking about unassisted birth with me, then I hope you'll subscribe to my channel. We also have videos on large family life, on organizing a large family in a small house, homeschooling, all sorts of things. So you can check out the rest of my channel, and for those of you who are regular watchers and subscribers, I appreciate you guys taking the time to hang out with me today, and we'll see you again soon.